Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the stage Ian Schubach. Ian.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Rajiv, and happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, indeed, I am the last speaker, and I certainly have got a very different topic today. No, I'm not German, no. I now live in Sydney, but I was born in South Africa, and I worked as a safari guide in Africa for the best part of 6 years. I thought it would be appropriate for me to start telling a little story about how I ended up becoming a safari guide. You know, our theme today is about being future ready. Well, I certainly didn't feel like I was future ready in my early 20s. I don't know if you felt the same way. But when I finished my education, I was really lost. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my world. And eventually my parents came up to me, I was staying at home, and they turned around to me and say, I think we want you to spread your wings. And we know what that's code for, don't we? Time to get out of the house. We want our house back. And for the first time, I needed to look for a job, and I saw this advert. I'm dating myself now, but I saw this advert in the newspaper, in a classified newspaper, and it said, game rangers wanted, no chances. Now, in South African slang, no chances means don't bother coming here if you're not serious about the job. I didn't really know what safari guides did or game rangers did. But I jumped in my car and I drove the 6 hours down towards the Kruger National Park, and I drove into this place called Thornybush Game Reserve. And I discovered that this was going to be a 2-week-long job interview. There were another 13 young aspirant safari guides that were going to be put through their paces for the next 14 days, and they're going to choose 2 people of the 14 to become junior guides. The moment that that process started, something shifted inside of me. I absolutely loved being in the bush. And within 2 or 3 days, I was desperate for that job. Desperate for the job. So we did a bit of theory tests, but the best part was the practical side of things. Because if you've been on safari in Africa, you'll know that what you do is you either take people on walks through the African bush, or you drive an open-air vehicle and you take them through this magnificent environment. And that was the part that I really loved. And it turns out that the last day of the job interview, we did what we call a rotation. So the person that was evaluating our skills was sitting in the open-air game drive vehicle in the passenger seat. And then each of our aspirant guides had 15 minutes to impress as we drove around the bush, taking a safari. And we did it on rotation. My turn came as the sun was starting to set, much like that picture that you see over there. It's the best time. The day animals are going to sleep and the night animals are waking up. I came around the corner and I remember there was a herd of zebra out on the plain. So I turned off the engine and I started to communicate with my guests behind me. And I was telling them about the social structure of zebra, and I was doing my best. I was very nervous though. When all of a sudden I heard this sound. It was loud and it was close. And I'd never heard that sound before in my life. And just sneaking a little look out of the corner of my eye, I looked at my rivals on the back of the Land Rover, and I could see that they also didn't know what that sound was. But there was one person on that Land Rover that did know what that sound was. His name was John Dixon. He was the senior guide. And to be honest, John had looked completely bored for the 2 weeks that we were out there. But the moment that John heard that sound, he changed. he transformed. He pulled me out of the driver's seat. He jumped behind the wheel, and we head off in the direction of that sound, through the bush. 200 meters or so, he stopped. Dust came over the back of the vehicle like this. He turned around and went, shh, to us. And then he said, Ingwe call. Now, Ingwe is the local Shangaan name for a leopard. That sound was a leopard. And we sat there just for 90 seconds. It felt like an age. But we sat there for 90 seconds, and then John got out of the Land Rover and walked over to some tracks on the ground. He came back, and he said, it's a male, and he's out on patrol. So we sat there. We did nothing else. We just sat there for another 90 seconds or so, and then all of a sudden we heard the sound. This was a herd of impala, an antelope. Now those impala were alarm calling at the leopard. That obviously gave the leopard's position away. So we jumped in, we were in the vehicle, and we just made our way towards that sound. Got there, nervous impala, couldn't see the leopard. Just waited. Then all of a sudden, squirrel alarm call. Not 50 meters, this time only 40 meters. Got there, still no leopard. Secretive as anything. But the next 15 minutes, as we closed the distance, as we closed the gap between ourselves and that leopard, the only thing I can describe it as bush theater. There wasn't a single person on that Land Rover that wasn't completely engaged in the activity that we were doing. We found that leopard, golden in the spotlight, beautiful. And I became a game ranger, a safari guide that night. And to be honest, I've never been anything different. I'm a guide at heart. I do other things, but I became ready then, because I found exactly what made me tick. So I'm a safari guide. I'm a naturalist. I love looking at nature, and I love learning from nature. I've always had an interest in business. So that combination of being a naturalist and having a business interest have merged in me. And it was one day when we were out on safari, when we saw this cat here, not this one, but this one, a lion. Magnificent animal. Magnificent animal. It had just finished a hunt. And we were moving away from the kill, the sighting. And I was on this Land Rover, and I heard a person at the back of the Land Rover turn around and say, I wish my team back in the office behaved like that pride of lion had just behaved. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This person was from Wall Street. They'd flown halfway around the world. Their mind was still on and in the markets. And yet they'd seen something in nature that had resonated with them. So bear in mind, I'm in my early 20s. So I plucked up the courage that evening and I walked over to them and said, what did you really mean by that? They turned around and said, no, it's not about the blood and the guts and the gore, Ian, because that's what it was, pretty gutsy. It's more the lessons, the teamwork lessons that I saw unfold in front of me. When I saw that lioness hunting for that animal, every single one of those lionesses knew what they were doing. When we saw those males out on patrol the other day, they looked like they were determined to hold on to their territory. That's what I want to see more of in my business. I want to see more talent retention, making sure that we hold on to our best people. That's what I want to see. And he went through a series of examples of where he felt like the Lion Prides could teach him valuable lessons. And I was just intrigued, man. I started to really see the bush through a different set of eyes. So for the next 4 years as a guide, every time I went on safari or took a game walk, I was wearing 2 hats. I was wearing a naturalist hat, a guide hat, but I was also wearing a business hat. And somehow I think I'm wired for learning through metaphor. I don't think everyone is, but I certainly am. So that's how I built a business that really talks to the power of individuals, lions, leopards, rhinos, what they do on a consistent basis, what habits they betray on a consistent basis that makes them survive in what I think is one of the most competitive marketplaces on the planet, which is the African Savannah. So hopefully this session will tell us a little bit more about how we go about behaving a bit more like a lion. Not too much, but enough. Does anyone know what this animal is? Yes, it's a Cape buffalo. It's a lone Cape buffalo bull. Now, buffalo, no problem when they live in herds. But a lone Cape buffalo bull, a bull that's been kicked out of the herd because they're no longer breeding, can be 900 kilograms and seriously dangerous. This is a dangerous animal. It's one of the most feared animals when you're walking on foot in the African bush. One of the best phrases I've ever heard used to describe a lone Cape buffalo bull was by an author, an American author called Robert Ruark. He turned around and says, a Cape buffalo bull looks at you as if you owe him money. And I think that's true if you look at that picture over there. And as a pride of lions, you don't just run up and catch one of those things as a snack on the way home. Just think about it. This is a seriously dangerous animal. So I used to work in the Okavango Delta. And you know what? I can only tell the story when I'm actually physically sitting down. So just imagine that I'm in my Land Rover. And it's actually about the right height too. So I'm in my Land Rover and I've got a group of guests behind me. We're in the Okavango Delta, which is part of Botswana. And we're following a pride of lion. And it's getting towards sort of mid, lions are most active at night. It's getting towards mid-morning and they're starting to rest up. They're making signs that they're going to rest for the day, which is typical lion behavior. They're lying on top of an old termite mound. And they're lying on their side, and there's probably 10 or 12 in the pride. Now, I've got a group of international guests that are behind me. And believe me, international guests have seen every single National Geographic, Netflix documentary, whatever you'd like to call it, about lions before they've got to Africa. And they expect that to be happening all the time. And of course, it never does. So this pride of lions now lying on the ground, when all of a sudden, one of the lionesses just gets up. She doesn't get up, she rolls up like this, and her ears go forward, and her whole body language changes. So I pick the binoculars out of the front of the Land Rover. I look through where she's looking now, and I see a herd of buffalo, 300 of them coming down off the plain like this. She's seen that, and she springs into action, or rather, should I say, she starts to stalk. She comes off the termite mound, and then she starts to get down low, and she starts to use that classic sort of cat stalk. You've seen it. The same thing. She gets down low, and she goes maybe 15 meters or so, and then she starts, again, change. Her body language, her body positioning changes. She sucks her tummy in like this. She expands her chest, and she starts to vocalize. She starts to make sounds. This, That's unusual. She's drawing attention to herself. That's not normal pride behavior. That's not normal hunting behavior. Binoculars up, look through. I see what's happened. 20 of the Century bulls, the bulls that look after the security of the buffalo herd, they've seen a nice green patch of grass off on the side here. They've pulled away from the rest of the herd and they're feeding here. This lioness has seen that split and she swings towards the bulls. And she starts to trot. And she starts to make even more sounds. She starts to roar. And finally, she's sprinting, galloping on a collision course with 20 of these guys. They see and hear her coming from a long way away. They turn around and say, bring it on. They've been wanting to do that for a single lioness. We've got her covered. So they form a shield like this. She cuts right close to them. One of them tries to hook her with this big sweep of a horn. She's agile enough to dip around. She dips down like this, and she goes down the dip. And those bulls can't resist it, and they chase her. But up here on the ridge, up here on the termite mound, the rest of the lionesses are waiting. They've seen this gap appear between the buffalo bulls, the security, and the vulnerable cows and the calves, and they launch an attack. They come down off the thing, and within a couple of minutes, they've got a cow. By the time I get the Land Rover around, one of the lionesses got a cow, and she's killing it. Those bulls have heard the noise, they realize they've been fooled, and they start to come back to try and save the herd. That cagey old lioness, the one that pulled them away to begin with, her role changes now. She starts to run interference for just enough time to allow this lioness to do the job on the cow. The moment that cow's dead, the lionesses, the pride melts off into the long grass. The bulls come back, they stomp, they can't see anything. Eventually they've got to move off, don't they? But that's when they move off with one of their number still on the ground, 600 kilograms of meat. The pride comes out and they collectively feed. That's an example of a team, of a high-performance team that is playing the situation as it's shifting. Because that's not classical lion hunt behavior. But because the environment is dictating the way in which the individuals are behaving, they are combining in different ways with different skills to ultimately take down the animal and to all collectively benefit as a result. That's teamwork. Lions are the only large cat that gets together in a team. They have completely occupied a niche in the market, we would call it. And their comparative advantage is teamwork. But you don't create effective teams without high levels of trust, without excellent communication, without excellent team spirit. Those are just some of the characteristics of a high-performance team and a pride. Yes, sir. Yes. That's exactly right. There are examples all over nature where you get this synchronous behavior. You describe birds when they're swarming like that, they make that kind of yes. Story. And it's very interesting. Deep was talking a little earlier about Darwin and evolution. And through the process of evolution, nature has been forced to be as efficient as possible. So with the pride of lions, their method to efficiency is teamwork. If you're talking about your migrating birds, where they're needing to reduce turbulence and fly, that's about reducing friction and increasing efficiency, isn't it? So, that's what I'm going to ask you to do, because we're going to move now to the interactive part of the experience, is I would like you to wear two hats for the next half an hour or so. The first hat is I'm going to throw you into a role play scenario where we're going to go and track animals in Africa. I'm going to transport you through video to Africa, and I'm going to ask you to imagine that you're part of a tracking team. So I want you to have fun with that. But at the same time, we're all smart in this room. What we know we're not here to do is to work how to track animals. We're here to understand what it takes to be future ready, how to inspire, how to make impact. That's what we're here to do. So, can I ask, as we set ourselves up over here, you need to have somebody either on your left or your right, because I'm going to ask you to do this exercise in pairs. We're going to watch videos. They're going to be tracking videos. I'm going to ask you to make a decision at the end of the video. So if you could just make yourself, please just pick yourself up and make sure that you've got somebody either on your left shoulder or your right shoulder, because we want pairs. You can do a 3 if you'd like to do a 3, but no more than 3. It's just the nature of the room. So if you could just organize yourselves to be like that. This is ultimately what we call an indoor teaming adventure. An indoor teaming adventure. The best way to think about it is it's in an interactive documentary. First of all, why tracking? Why tracking? Why do you think we picked this as a metaphor? I mean, when we woke up this morning, most of us looked at our diary. We looked at the time. We're all tracking something at some point in our lives. We are quite literally born to track. Tracking is an ancient art that is as old as time itself. Tracking in the olden days was about individuals finding food. It wasn't for fun. This was a survival technique. And over generations and millennia, we became damn good at it. All of us have a tracker in us. It's just that modern society in the last 4,000 years or so has changed the way in which we interact with nature. So, that's why tracking, and of course, we track from a business point of view. You can get the analogy. We're tracking all the time. We're moving in markets that are constantly changing. We need multiple modes of thinking in order to be successful. All of these apply with tracking. So that's why tracking from a business point of view, we have a relationship with a non-for-profit school down in South Africa called the Tracker Academy. And this is the reason that we build this tracking content is about people. And about people, marginalized people that live in Africa. And I wanted to quickly show you a short story about this really, I think, inspirational story. This is the Tracker Academy.
There are very few master trackers left in Africa. We have lost 90% of the indigenous tracking skills over the last 30 or 40 years. We always had a very intense desire to start something that took these wonderful, unique skills and transferred into people who didn't have an opportunity for education and who could use these skills in conservation around Africa.
The art of tracking is dying. My dream is to become a master tracker one day.
The Tracker Academy course is 1 year. The first 6-month semester is situated at the Kruger base, Samara Game Reserve, where the students learn the semi-desert biome. They then shift to Londolozi Game Reserve, where they get an opportunity to learn the more traditional bushveld biome.
So you learn different things. You start from the scratch. You go to a tracking school.
Tracking is measurable, it's objective. You can teach it, you can train it, and you can evaluate it.
The skills that I've been taught, how to follow a wild animal, it's amazing.
This is to run it down here. Yes, there are also another one there. Okay, this down is good fish. Let's follow. Okay.
The skills that I got from Tracker Academy, I will be conserving our rhino. Every day when I go out in the bush, I learn different things.
I can identify almost everything in the tracks.
Now I have a lot of skill. I want to go back my home to show the people that I'm a tracker.
The tracking course that I went to is not about teaching you tracks and leave you like that. They also help you get a job. You got knowledge and you get employed, then you bring something back home, and by doing so, you also help your relatives, your family.
Almost 100% of our tracker graduates are finding permanent, gainful employment.
My job will change my life and also my family. I will try to help them.
You see people go through a complete metamorphosis to a place where they are more powerful and they can make a massive contribution, not only to conservation, but to South Africa and to Africa as a whole.
I can even track my life. I know where I come from and I know where I'm going. Teachers in the Tracker Academy not only teach tracking, they also teach you how to live in life.
From the beginning, I was blank, but they write something in that blank pages, and I see a good picture about myself.
This is important for many people. This is the great beginning.
My life, as I'm talking now, has changed completely.
So that's why we do this. We deliver these indoor teaming adventures all over the world. And I have a dream one day of having Tracker Academy in different countries, not just South Africa and Africa. I would love, for example, to set up and replicate the Tracker Academy model here in India. I think it would be a wonderful thing to do, but that's for a different time. Let me show you a little bit more about how we influence corporate people around the world. So, how's this going to work? Well, we go and film students from the Tracker Academy. Every track that they do out there in the bush, we are filming. We're filming. And through the magic of editing, we create a storyline. And now you become part of that storyline. As a pair, I'm going to ask you to become a tracking team. I'm going to dump you into the middle of a track in the African bush. We're going to be tracking white rhino and a calf. And you've got a mission. I wanted to show you quickly. This is how it's going to work. I'm going to show you a video. It's going to set the scene. It's a tracking video. Ultimately, it's a scenario that happened to the Tracker Academy students. But imagine that you're them. And then I'm going to ask you to discuss the scenario and choose an option as if you were the trackers. And then I'm going to play you the consequence of your choice, which is going to lead to another choice and another and another. A kind of choose your own adventure experience, right? Sound like fun? So before we actually get you in there, I want to introduce you to the team. So these are the characters. My great friend and business partner, Alex van der Heerfer. Renius Mhlongo, who's a master tracker. You saw Renius on that video. He grew up as a hunter-gatherer in the Kruger Park. And then we've got two young students, Sam Mukamu and Trevor Makakule. These are new graduates that have just graduated from the Tracker Academy. So they're young, they're enthusiastic, but they don't quite have the experience yet that the other two have. So that's our team. Who you want to identify, they've got a mission. This is the Tracker Academy mission. It's to preserve and protect African wildlife. You've all heard the horrible stories about the amount of poaching and challenges that we've got in Africa around poached animals. Their second part of their mission is to grow the next generation of wildlife trackers. And the third is to serve the ecotourism industry, because there's a saying in Africa, if it pays, it stays. It's as brutal as that. So we want to create this kind of symbiotic relationship between people and animals all over Africa and ultimately all over the world. So that's the mission. So here we go. I'm going to dump you into a rhino track. It's a white rhino, it's calf. We've been tasked to go and find that. That's our goal. It's been led by Renius and Alex, but Sam Mukama and Trevor Makakule are going to join us on our journey. So here's your first video. It's going to play. At the end of it, I'm going to ask you and your partner to decide what you would do if you were Alex and Ren and the team there. Sound good? Right, here goes.
Hikers are not afraid to put in the hard work and long hours. Although the trail is old, it's the only evidence the team have to work with, and so they press on.
Going in circles here. Feeding.
In times like these, it is best to spread out, cover the greatest amount of area, and look for signs.
Not easy to see the tracks. We're often losing them and finding them, losing them and finding them. And the grass is also short, so you're not getting a trail through the grass. So you have to go a lot slower, more detailed.
Renius's click gets them back on the trail. Staying alert pays dividends as the team narrowly avoids a few cantankerous buffalo bulls. At 800 kilograms, just one charge can lead to a disaster.
Going bulls can be very dangerous. See their droppings now with visual of 3 of them. You need to be careful.
They proceed with caution back to the road and remain on high alert. Then a complete surprise.
Here's a dilemma. We've been following these rhino track for a long time now. It's getting hot. They're moving in circles. They're creating confusion. We're making progress, but it's slow. It's tough going. Here's now a fresh lion track, the big male lion. Why don't we follow him? We break from these rhino and perhaps we take this lion trail.
So you can see in that story, in that video, that following these tracks is not always easy. It's a wild animal. This area that we're following him is an area 10 times the size of Tokyo, so they can go anywhere. It's very unpredictable. So it's slow, and the young graduates themselves are starting to lose a little bit of interest. And we've now all of a sudden stumbled on this lion track that looks a lot fresher. So it gives us a choice that we would like to make, or could make. First is, do you follow the lion? Do you now turn around, not go after the white rhino, start to go after the lion? After all, you're going to be preserving both your animals, both sides. If you want to grow the next generation of trackers, which is your mission, it's probably good to have some form of encounter at some point in time during this experience. So that's, that would be your argument to follow the lion. So let me work you through the pros and cons. Why would you follow the lion? The track definitely looks fresh. We haven't seen lions on the reserve for 4 days. Now remember, people have flown from all over the world. They've arrived in Africa. What's the number one animal people want to see when they go to Africa? Lion. So they've spent sometimes tens of thousands of dollars to get there. They spent 4 days bouncing around on the back of a Jeep, and they haven't come what they're looking for. So you have an obligation to do your best at finding that. And the way in which you find lion is you track them. So that would be a big advantage to find those lions on foot, because then you could radio the other vehicles and say the lions are here, and you can get the guests to come in. What would counter that? Obviously, lions are more dangerous to approach on foot. So there's a physical safety thing over here. And also there's a storm coming. And when storms come, the predators make use of the opportunity when it gets darker and a bit windier to hunt prey. So there's increased amounts of risk if you decide to follow the lion. But it's a spectacular animal that everybody wants to see. All the other is you stick with the rhino. At the end of the day, that was your first goal. Stick with it. Don't let it go away. Part of the learning lesson that you want Trevor to have is things can be tough. We don't know whether the calf is around or not around, but it is tough. It is tough. And we may not find the animal, which wouldn't be an attractive thing. So I'm going to give you 60 seconds. I know none of you are trackers, but from the information that I've given you and the video you've seen, I'm going to give you 60 seconds to decide as a pair, what would you like to do? Would you like to follow the lion or stick with the rhino? Now, please be clear. This is a binary choice. I know there's some of you thinking to yourself, I don't want to do either of those things. I want to go back to the lodge and have a pina colada. That's not an option. I'm going to ask you to commit to one or the other. and you can't invent a third one. Oh, and by the way, you have to make a choice. You can't kick the can down the road. Yeah? You've got to make a choice of what I'm presenting you now. 60 seconds. As a pair, what would you like to do? Would you like to follow the line or stick with the rhino? No, you're supposed to talk, sir, with your... That's part of teamwork. You're supposed to have this conversation. All right, so you guys are on rhino. All right, no worries. I'll give everybody another 15, 20 seconds. Consequences of? So consequences of sticking to the rhinos, you might not find them because we don't seem to be closing the distance fast enough for us to be able to find. It could be a multi-day experience. Okay. I think we'll make a call just for fun. All right, so you've got a choice. You've got to make one or the other. If you decided to follow line, stick up your hand, follow line. Quite a few people are switching midstream. If you've decided to stick with the rhino, stick up your hand. Yeah, it's basically a 50-50 by the looks of it. So this is how it's going to work. I'm going to show you your choice now. So if you chose to follow line, I'm going to show you what happened. At the end of that, there's going to be a choice that I'm going to ask you to think about. But before I get you to make that choice, I'm going to come back and show everybody what happens if you stick with rhino. So everybody gets to see everybody else's choices. Cool? All right, follow line. Here goes.
After a short discussion, they feel they are very close and decide to continue on foot.
There's more than one line. Present the difference of the. You've got one line. You don't know what else? Okay. Unlike down there, there's another one that's going along there. You see a whole lot of that coming from the other bank. No. I get it. The rhino in the area, so you heard like a squealing sound, sounds like a young llama.
Maybe the team should have stayed on rhino.
Yeah, on the backbone. Same direction the line tracks have gone.
The team proceeds with caution. The lion may be close by and is probably watching them. It is getting dark and the sun is setting. The team will soon be in complete darkness. Lions and leopards are all nocturnal hunters. They have night vision 6 times more powerful than humans.
So I think we should look into this, walk down this road, and see if we can pick up tracks further ahead. But it's getting dark now. Yeah. It's a bit dangerous. Okay, so we go quickly to good dark. Yeah. Okay.
The trackers have put in a lot of effort. They sense they are close by, but they must also confront the reality of their situation. They have only a few minutes of light left, and once night falls, the lions have the advantage. What should they do?
Okay, so those people that chose lions as your choice, so in other words, follow or switch to lion, you close. It took longer than we thought it would to catch up. And your choice now is, do you push on into the night? And of course, that the later it gets, the higher the risk becomes. It's been a very long day. You're fatigued both mentally and physically. Trevor, the young buck, is keen. I mean, he wants to find something today. So he's keen to push on. Or do you come back tomorrow? Now, of course, if you come back tomorrow, that means that you're basically leaving the tracks and you're hoping that that pride doesn't keep moving. Because otherwise, you're further behind. But if they happen to make a kill, you can come back tomorrow and you can still show those guests the famous lions. And in early morning light, it's fantastic. So that's half the room. The other half of the room wanted to stay on rhino. Here's your outcome.
Whilst tracking an animal, the trackers must remain committed and patient. The persistence shown by rhinos ultimately leads to a breakthrough.
It's a rhino, 9 foot. What happened here? It was lying down here for resting last night. I don't think that's far away now, because it just should we get up here and then start moving. It's amazing.
It means we've now caught up because they were sleeping. They spent time. You can see all the grasses was flapping.
Okay, so let's follow. This is good.
Spirits are lifting after many hours in pursuit, and Renias demonstrates what a rhino rubbing post is used for.
These fresh droppings of the mother and the daughter and the little baby there.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's warm.
Yeah, it's still warm.
That's warm.
Before long, the team spot the adult rhino. However, the calf is nowhere to be seen.
Obviously, the wind is blowing from our back, carrying our scent to the runner. That's why they're running.
As the team prepares to follow, they get a call on the radio from the reserve manager. A tracker on patrol in a different part of the reserve has seen suspicious human tracks. The general manager instructs the team to investigate. Do they pursue the white rhino to find the calf, or do they follow the general manager's instructions?
So those that decided to stick with rhino, Radius has got you back on track. You're really close. You found the adults, but remember, part of the objective was to find the calf and to make sure the calf is safe. So you've got a choice now, is you either keep on the track and ignore the general manager's instruction, which is to stop and go and investigate some human tracks, suspicious human tracks that could be poachers on the other side of the reserve. So now basically what we've got is we've got 4 decisions at play in the room, haven't we? For those that chose lion, your choice is either push on or come back tomorrow. For those that are on the rhino track, you either investigate human tracks or sight the calf. Cool? 30 seconds. Give me your second decision. 30 seconds. Just discuss as a pair, or if you're doing this by yourself, make your own choice. Yes? Sorry, there you are. It's not an option. We cannot radio back? You cannot radio back, no. No, this is the simulation. This is the simulated. We try and make these as real as possible. In the real track, there wasn't a backup, so that's why we're presenting that to you. Okay, I'm very aware of time, so let's make a call over here. If you've decided, if you're following the lions, your choice is either to push on into the night, a risky proposition, or do you come back tomorrow? If you've decided to push on into the night, just raise your hand. Push on. Gee, you guys are courageous down here. You're going to love virtual tracking, no problem. You're pushing on as well. Come back tomorrow. If you decide to come back tomorrow, cool, obviously the balance. And then, of course, we've got the rhino side. You either investigate human tracks, if that's your choice. Go and look for poachers, potentially. All right, and if you've decided to go ahead and sight the calf. All right, so they're all up. Okay. So at this point in time, I might just pause. We've got 4 videos, 4 outcomes that we're going to play. I'm very aware of time. So we've got a choice to make here ourselves, just in the simulated sense, is we can go down one path, or we can go down both paths. It's going to make about a 10-minute difference on when we finish. What would you like to do? One path? One path. Would you like to go lions or rhino? Lions. All right. You can come up to me afterwards, and I'll show you the outcome that you really wanted to see. Okay. Okay. Push on. Here goes.
crickets. Dark is coming. We're going to either find him now or we're not going to find him at all. Nice and fresh. Look at this. You can see the nail mark, the peel mark. Yeah, fresh. This is the first one. Nice and slow. See the different textures. You can see where this track is almost shining. It's so fresh. Yeah, young people often say that the fresh tracks shine. That's because the soil become compacted.
These tracks are fresh, and the line's close by here, but we've got the elephants. It's another obstacle, and this is chewing into our precious time. We've got to find a way to get around them before it gets dark. We're very close now, but we're losing life very quickly. How long we can carry on?
And I want to say, go from so. Because I'm going to do it to my own room. Drive. She's going to go to sleep. She's going to sleep. I see it. She's going to go from what can I do? Because it comes. It is now when the cattle in my tree. So Songola, go Taganif Ascar, the food to Matla, I won't find Fanishar. If I Nashar. Say, she's got to go with the muscles. I was having to say, everyone says 7 before when she says, said, but Trev, 11 farm of food. Since that have anger, I can mark so. I see it of man and bones.
So Ren made an executive decision there, just risk after risk after risk after risk. And it could have ended in tragedy there. So he pulled off the track and called off the track. For those that decided to come back tomorrow, here's your result.
Having made the decision to suspend the trekking last night, the team heads out at first light. Trevor spots a drag mark across the riverbed. It looks like a carnivore has dragged a kill.
The turkey. So they're digging the root.
Yeah, taking your root.
It's not a large carnivore. No, it's just a porcupine. This is a porcupine. Oh, that's interesting. So it's cooked. Something is it. It's sitting. It was there's a lot of audio here. So please, if something happens, that just don't run. Stand still behind what you do. All right.
It's dangerous because there's meat here. And the lioness and they've got young cubs. They're feeding. Okay, the mother they stand down. I think we must move away. Yeah, they've seen us now. They're aware of our presence. And they've actually been quite forgiving.
He's looking towards us.
Yeah, he's looking straight at us now.
Yeah, but better leave it. Yeah, that we better leave it. That she's watching us. There's no here. Okay, but better leave them because already.
Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. Give yourselves a round of applause. Okay. For those of you that want to see the rhino end up, please come and speak to me afterwards. I'll let you know. So I won't spend too much time on this. But I think I wanted to tie it back to this future ready, innovate, inspire, and impact theme that we've got of the YLC today. When I look at trackers and the way in which they go about their goal, which is to find animals in a wild, wordless environment, I think they are terrific examples for us to actually follow when we're tackling any project where there's risk and we're not sure of the outcome and we have imperfect information. That's our world, isn't it? And we discussed that a lot today. So your first thing, of course, when you embark on any project is you need to set your intention. What am I looking for? What do you want? That's what Deep's question was. What do you want? What do you want? So set your intention. Once you set your intention, the next thing as a tracker you want to do is you want to find the track. Look for evidence in this wild place where you can find definite sign or signal that you are on track. And then from that, work out which is the best set of tracks, because there could be multiple, which is the best set of tracks to follow. So your managing mindset here is one of discernment. A rookie just starts tracking any set of tracks. A master tracker carefully evaluates all the evidence before he moves. Once you find the right track, you then follow the track. And following the track is about being curious, about being deeply analytical, studying the evidence, but also being aware of the patterns that this animal is operating in a big world. And the best trackers can do both of those. Your next job is to close the gap, be as efficient as possible, use human intellect and ingenuity to find the animal. And then ultimately, every single tracker that I know at some point in time, even the best ones, they lose the track. They lose the track. But the best ones have the humility to admit that they've lost and get back on the horse, so to speak. This is about resilience, regaining the trail. And then finally, when we have an encounter with our target animal, this encounter needs to go well for both. It needs to go well for the animal that we're following and ourselves. You don't want a 250 kilogram lion running at you angrily. And likewise, you don't want to scare that animal so it never wants to be found again. So this is a win-win scenario you're trying to promote here. So hopefully, as I go through these mindsets and these tracks and this process, you can connect this to your world. A world where we need to be more discerning. We need to be curious. We need a practical imagination. We need adaptability. And finally, we need deep respect for the quarry that we are pursuing. We call this the tracking pathway. And we think we can adapt this to any project. You'll see, we'll send something out for you. You'll get a little copy of this model that you can apply to any project that you want to run. That's my story. I'm a safari guide. I love being a safari guide. I'm passionate about spreading the word of tracking around the world. I would love if any of you have got connections to people in wildlife areas that would be open to having a conversation about replicating the Tracker Academy here in India. I would love to have that conversation. We have deep experience in transforming people's lives. We put 350 young adults that had no job, no prospect of a job, come from serious poverty. We've put them into gainful employment. And the multiplier effect back into the villages outside the game reserves is over 20 people, which is amazing. So thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate it. Thank you.